Oh, Janet, I just felt like I was in the ocean, and the music was just taking me deep and then up higher and deep, and oh, it's beautiful. Thank you. So yes, this is the second talk on flow, and I'd like to dedicate it to Ray Fix. I have a lot of Science of Mind stuff in here, and he was my cohort. And he was also my printer. He wasn't able to print my talk, so I have to read it on the laptop. But the concept of flow, for me, brought up the concept of river. So there's a lot that I say about rivers in this talk. I will use the word flow and float interchangeably. And you all know this already. I mean, if you were watching Swami Beyond Ananda last night, so much of what he said is stuff that's going to come up in my talk, but with different language. And we all know this. So what a wonderful community that we have where we can get together and renew it, review it, and celebrate it. So the basics are, we all are floating in a river of some sort, or various rivers over time. I'm going to point out that sometimes we are in the family river, or remember the childhood river and our school system river that we were in? The career river, and many of us are now in the retirement river. And also, we do go into the grief river often. These periods of time seem to have a life of their own, and we surrender to the movement of these events and relationships. We may feel a sense of order and predictability, so we just keep floating along. Everyone is responding in agreement that we are all doing our societal roles in an acceptable way. The river is moving us all along, together towards somewhere, and it is called race consciousness. That's a Science of Mind term, and it does not have anything to do with racism. It's the human race. It's the collection of thoughts and energy that sort of congeal and gather and control, direct. So we also flow in various rivers of identification and labeling. Male, female, gay, straight, young or elderly, Gen Z, Gen X, millennial. I've lost track of what all those mean. I'm just glad I'm a baby boomer and I don't have to, no. What is the most current one?
Alpha.
Really?
That's the one after Z, yeah.
Oh.
Current children.
Interesting. Oh. Well, then I guess we got a long ways to go, Alpha and Omega. Well, we've got labels like right and left, black, white, or brown, and we can't change the color of our skin or our ancestry, so should it follow that we can't change our labels? We must be aware of unconscious flowing. I'm going to simplify this for the sake of discussion with a little bit of duality here, and there's the unconscious good river. We can tend to be asleep in this river. We have a high need to protect our ego and to protect the things that we have. There's an unconscious bad river. I hate to use that word bad, but you know, this is the river where maybe we don't have as much, and so self-doubt creeps in, fear and anger. But actually, both of these rivers experience lack of freedom and authenticity. Many other rivers that we float in, and they are not by our own choosing. There are many of them. I'm going to hit upon several. There's the economic river of inequality. It's a big one that has worsened. The colonial, patriarchal, hierarchical river, very old and very entrenched. The media information river, particularly addictive and divisive. the entertainment competition river. Fun, but hugely distracting of what's really important and going on in our society. There is I had a hard time what I was going to call this, the health insurance river. I mean, if you think about it, it has removed us from our natural intuitive powers of healing. Recently, this has come to my attention because I'm a former teacher, so the history river or the public education river. It's under revision by somebody else's river of paradigms. And the last one on my list is the river of your beliefs of what ails society. If you're like me, you have your ideas on what could actually fix a broken beyond repair system. But these activities waste our time. I think rivers are belief systems of race consciousness that we keep in place by our collective ways of thinking, and they've joined up with others who have similar thinking patterns. And voila, we now have created a slightly bigger river of thought about life and living, and then expectations crop up, judgment, if someone is not doing it the same way. And in fact, others may judge your river or try to get you to switch rivers and float in theirs. That's happened before, and it's gotten pretty awkward lately. Awkward and aggressive in some cases, if you've been reading the news. Trying to wake up or escape from these rivers that label us and limit us is near impossible unless you want to. It's sort of like floating the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. Being closed in by those huge cavernous walls, the walls are like the massive power of the system and a very loud echo chamber. And there's no way to get out until we get out of the canyon. Here's a different river scenario. And I referred to it before, and I'm sure many of you know of the Hopi Elders prophecy called the 11th Hour. You can find it online. It's beautiful. I'm only going to read an excerpt. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. Wait, what is this destination? That was my question. I don't want to be in a river that controls me or guides me to something that I don't know, where it's going. Is it a river of race consciousness that I don't agree with? Now, I know this prophecy is about flowing with nature and the ways of Mother Earth or Gaia. It is about leaving the shores of dominant culture and releasing oneself to the greater flow of life for the common good. Many people are going along with this. And when I ever say that, I think of the Boise River float. We've got this beautiful freshwater, cold river in Boise. And in the summer, hundreds, if not thousands of people get in with their rafts and their canoes and their inner tubes, and they start at Barber Park and they float, yipping and hollering and drinking and shouting, and it's not a very good family atmosphere when you actually come down to it. There's an energetic messaging that seems to come from all these people, because and in these rivers where we're floating in, the language may capture us and limit us, such as, I can't do that, we can't do that, or things are just fine the way they are. We often say to ourselves, and we hear, I'm not good enough, or don't stand out and make too much noise, or Stand out, make some noise. How can we make more money from this? And the one that a lot of us face, I'm too old to change. This is the way it has always been done. The messaging that I seem to hear in my own head is, I have to get to the bottom of this problem. Let me keep researching and Googling. I can fix this, or we can fix this. This is a good time to think about what kind of messaging you are repeating to yourself. It gets to be an unconscious messaging too. This paper that Delith was passing out, thank you for printing these, by the way. This is just some examples for you to play around with. I call one the closed loop river, and then open at the top river. So if you think about some messaging that you want to change and float in the other river, change your thinking, change the wording. There's another type of river that I want to touch upon briefly, and it is, to me, a very big one. It is the neural pathways in our brains. They actually look like branches of a tree or tributaries of a river system. This is what really controls so much of our responses to life and to our habits and to our lack of freedom. True freedom from preconceptions and automated reactions. These neural pathways get dug deeper and deeper the longer we float in the rivers of race consciousness. And the more we keep hearing and repeating what's in there, we don't use our brain streams. They use us. They are unconscious subliminal currents that have certain pathways for the working of our brains. Think of the word current, an ocean current. It's an under the surface powerful movement. You can be floating a big barge on the ocean and without any power, it will float with the current. That's what the Kon-Tiki did, by the way. Current is also an expression of now. And it's also used in the flow of electricity, right? An interesting word. It really gets me pondering. All of the rivers that I'm talking about, whether society is dictating the flow with its powerful pressures, or childhood trauma that is still in charge of our responses. Or if you're simply a curiosity seeker, you're curious and you want to truly be free and know more, we can always switch rivers, swim, fly, or transcend from one river into another of a higher vibration and try to stay floating in there, such as the Curiosity Spiritual Path River. That's what has collected all of us here in our river of the Interfaith Center for Spiritual Growth. The Gratitude River, that's always a great one to be in. And how about the One Life, One Mind, We Are All One River? Constantly reminding ourselves, even though you might not agree with somebody. And for Marilyn's sake, and for Anne Marie's sake, the Service River, Give of Your Gifts River. And beyond these is the ultimate and infinite wellspring of Source River. I got to mention another river. This is a river well, it's not really a river, it's in Idaho, but I love the name and I've always wanted to go. The Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness Area. Anybody want to go? Do like a backpack trip? Oh, yay! Yay! Let's plan it. It's 2.4 million acres. And so what does it take to escape a fast-flowing river? We are not clinging to the side like in the Hopi prophecy. We are floating gingerly along, enjoying the views, but as we look around, there are many warnings. We see the collapsing civilization. The health of earth, soils, air, food, water are declining. Freedoms are eroding away to move about safely, to buy a house, or for some, even to find land that will accept them. We know deep in our hearts that this is not right for humanity and the planet. So it's time to get into a new river, or make a new river. How do we do this? It starts with each one of us. Does this sound like you're too small for this job? I feel small. You know, how can we change the world? We need to revise our idea of how powerful our creative ability is. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, says this about flow. And for those of you who are not familiar with Science of Mind or Ernest Holmes, he did not make this stuff up. His work was immersed into all the spiritual wisdoms around the world and found that they all taught the same truths, basically. He just put it into a big book with scientific-like language. So here's a little crash course on Science of Mind. The law of cause and effect is what we think about, we bring about. It is responsive and manifests exactly what we put our attention on. This is why we must always be consciously assessing what rivers we are flowing in. Here is a quote from his book called The Science of Mind. The law is infinite, and it happens to be available to us wherever we are, at any given time. It occupies all space and fills every form with differentiations of itself. The law is a fluid thing. Therefore, it is flowing incessantly. It flows through all of its creations, and it flows through us. This is the crux of the whole matter. It must flow through us in order to manifest for us. What does this flow and law do? And I capitalize law because law is God in the Science of Mind language, and it's in motion. It simply responds to what is put into it. Here's the catch. It responds to our conscious thought as well as effectively as our unconscious thoughts. Some people are always negative and they don't even realize what they are initiating into manifestation. Even if they say the law doesn't exist, or this is a bunch of hogwash, or it doesn't work, then that's exactly what the law will produce. The law is fluid and will take the shape of your mental attitude. And here are some other names for this law of cause and effect. The law of reciprocity, the law of attraction, mental equivalence, the law of mind, and a creative principle. And there are probably many others that get the same point across. So how do we impact the world if we are all working individually? Well, on page 402, I'm going to read another quote by Ernest Holmes. Spirit cannot be, or can it become, antagonistic to itself or us, because we are one with it. It is always flowing into us and ever expressing itself through us. This self-expression of God is always the self-expression of man and women, for we are one. The I am is both individual and universal. All individuality merges into universality. All forms are rooted in one creative mind. The Spirit of God is the spirit of humanity. So does that mean we all have to be thinking the same thing at the same time? Well, maybe, but probably not, because time has no bearing on consciousness. We do have to be in the river of awareness that oftentimes we call Christ consciousness, and I'm tending and really favoring the idea of Gaia consciousness. They're sort of both the same thing, inclusive of all aspects of life, all entities as one, compassion for all in a true connective way, love, respect, responsibility, and equanimity towards all, acceptance of our place in the cyclical, seasonal life-death patterns. That which comes from the earth must return to the earth. And what is done to one is done to all. A little bit of some repetition there, but I love words too, like Swami. Wasn't he good last night? He was just so clever. How do we tap into the infinite wellspring of Source River? How do we get the power to create? How do we use the law intentionally for good? And how do we access the Christ or the Gaian consciousness? It is the power of silence, which Dave spoke to last week. You know, I always sort of thought silence was stillness, and with stillness, there's a void, there's no movement, because aren't we supposed to sit empty, sit still, empty our minds, stop all brain activity in order to meditate correctly? Well, not so. I've been corrected. I love the journey because we get so much better at knowing stuff. Yeah, this part is, I had a really crazy mix-up of my speech on paper last night, and so at the last minute I had to scramble around, so a few stumbles here. So silence is not just a stilled mind. Silence taps us into the flow of unformed substance, which is constantly being worked on by the law, which is constantly being inundated by all of our thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes. It is the business of the law to always flow and form itself and reform itself to the impetus that is exerted into it. God is an infinite process that never stops moving and responding and creating and forming. It is mind-boggling to imagine the activity and the power of this law. Silence is not a reprieve from it, but it is a tapping into it. So I'm getting close to the end of my talk. I want to share a reading by David White. And before I do that, I would like to just point out that there is I got the urge to do a meditation that is too long for me to add on to this talk. So Craig Harvey so wonderfully agreed to take my audio recording, and he will attach it to the end of the YouTube video and a link for it. Yeah, so let me know. It's the meditation goes along with the talk. Some of the concepts are there, hopefully for a transformation. So this reading from David White, W-H-Y-T-E, he's an Irish poet and philosopher. It's on the paper that was handed out, and it's a rather long piece. And I just want to read a couple of my favorite paragraphs in it. And I'd like to mention that it came to me from my teacher, Adi Vajra, who I'm studying the 5 Latifs with. And for those of you who are studying with Imam Kamau Ayubi in the Sufi class, this offering from my teacher came as an addendum to the Black Latif, in case that makes any sense. So, On Silence by David White. I'll try not to cry. Silence is not stillness, but movement, and therefore the graveyard of any fixed identity. Real silence puts any present understanding to shame, orphans us from certainty, leads us beyond the well-known and accepted reality, and confronts us with the unknown and previously unacceptable conversation about to break in upon our lives. And then, to become deeply silent is not to become still, but to become tidal and seasonal, a coming and going that has its own inimitable, essential character, a story not fully told, like the background of the sea, or the rain falling, or the river going on and on, out of sight, out of our lives. May peace, health, and freedom for all. Namaste. And so it is.
Hello. Thank you for joining me on this meditation and visualization exercise. So please begin to settle in. Go to your quiet comfort zone that you are familiar with. And bring your attention to your breath. It's always the breath, isn't it? Inhaling and exhaling with intention. Know that you can come back to the mechanism of your breath at any time during this meditation. Feel your muscles begin to relax. Invite your shoulders to roll back and sink into position. Lift your crown chakra to a slightly higher place. Place your hands where they are comfortable. Your feet on the ground or cross-legged, or whatever works for you. Simply let go and experience the silence. Thoughts will come. Let them. See how they just flow effortlessly, and don't try to curb them or analyze them. Just let them come and go and observe. Watch the river in your mind's eye for 1 minute. Now stop. Stop immediately. Stop that thought midstream, and do you recognize what you experience? Are you feeling an emptiness, a void, a frustration? It may be just a momentary experience of nothingness, and you can do this at any time during your day. Stop your thoughts, especially if you are in the midst of a stressful moment. Just stop and feel that momentary silence. Let that void be there. Let the emptiness and formlessness be the goal. If there were ever a goal in meditation, let this be the one. Emptiness and formlessness. We will now go into another short silence, and just like before, let your thoughts roam and float, and at any time, invite a complete stoppage. Then observe or feel what occurs in that empty, formless moment. Let's begin. Don't forget to stop your thought. Okay, that was wonderful. If you would like to exit this meditation right now, we're going to go into a different type of visualization. And I invite you to come back if you can spend some more time with this. And we're going to go into a visualization next to a river. And I invite you to imagine yourself sitting by that river. Maybe you're walking by and you notice it. And get comfortable with this scenario. And allow all signs of your busy life to disappear. There are no birds chattering or leaves rustling. The only sound you are aware of is that of the water flowing. It is not a big river, probably more like a stream, but you can't really walk across it because it gets a little too deep in the middle. But what really draws you to this time and space is that the soft, serene sound of the river's voices. One voice is the soft lapping of the water on the small rocks and pebbles along the shore closest to you. There is another voice that comes from the faster rushing water down the center of the river where there are fewer obstacles. Take a couple of minutes to reside by this river and listen intently to the different voices and sounds that you hear coming from the energy of the water. Feel the relaxing, calming sounds assisting you to just drift away into this peaceful, serene place. Continue to allow yourself to sort of take on the energy of this flowing, mesmerizing water energy. Are you motivated to do anything as you sit here? As you release yourself into this sound space, all that is occurring right now is simply nothing. Even the sounds of this river seem to fall away into nothingness. It becomes a new experience of silence, an energetic silence. And yet there's movement in and through all of this experience. It seems to call you, and there is a feeling that you want to reach out and touch this silent, fluid river water. So you inch closer and stretch your arm out so your fingertips just brush lightly across the surface. It is not very cold at all. It is actually nice, a refreshing, comfortable feel. So you put your whole hand in and it just feels even more inviting. Before you know it, you've gotten so close to the river that you are now immersing your arm, now a foot, your legs, and you just simply ease into the spaciousness with your whole body. You feel safe in this river of silence. And as you simply sit or float, relaxing into this watery space, you feel the fears and worries, any body tensions lift away. There is no differentiation between you and this watery substance, a unified field, a spaciousness where your molecules and cells have simply relinquished their form into the energy of formlessness, and at the same time into the energy of all potentiality. You are unified with this infinite material. It has merged with you and you with it. I invite you to stay in this spaciousness, this essence of all there is, for a minute or two, and simply allow the experience to unfold and reveal to you what is needed at this time. Do you feel a deeper relaxation? A deeper release? Continue to flow or float or sit or whatever is comfortable for you in this watery essence of the infinite wellspring of Source. Now, please bring your attention to my voice. Begin to collect your self as you become aware of the watery material all around you. Recollect yourself and give yourself permission to put your cells and molecules back together again in perfect order and organization. Allow yourself to imagine a new form and function for your beautiful body temple, for your mental proclivities, and for your emotional resiliency. Feel yourself transcend from this watery silence into the shore in your body where we started this visualization. As you become aware of your renewed physical self, allow your love to embrace this new wholeness of who you are. If there's any part of your body right now that is calling for attention, bring your loving attention to that place in your body. Give it time to realign, to redefine, to transcend. Let any dark or shadow energies just simply drip away and out of your body. Feel curious about this new clarity and expression of a renewed you as you slowly and gently walk away from this place along the river. A place that you can return to at any time for renewal, rejuvenation, relaxation, or any other life-affirming quality that you may ever need or desire. And so now it's time to bring our meditation visualization to a close. And as we begin to put our attention onto our bodies and the chairs that we are sitting in, the room that we are located in, begin to recognize your breath and how the chest rises and falls. Get in touch of your shoulders and your neck and your head. Feel the crown chakra opening at the top. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes and look around with a new discovery of who you are and the peace and equanimity that is filling you. And I express my deep gratitude for you being here and joining me on this little meditation visualization experience. Namaste.